Hey everybody, we're live again, and already somebody's watching. Wow, I didn't even tell anyone that I'd be broadcasting at 11:47 p.m. at night. Oh, and they're gone. I don't know how that people watching number works. Oh, now there's two people. Maybe he went to go get someone and then came back. Hmm. Anyways, the title of today's video should be why more Republicans are gonna fucking die. But that is not very AdSense friendly. So I'm just going to say why some Republicans are at risk, you know, and maybe that'll slip by the censors. I don't know. I don't even know why I care because it's only 100 fucking views, right? So it's like the difference between getting a nickel or not. Um, they at least give me more than a penny for my thoughts over the course of an hour. So yeah, I've been taking a look at the map of where lockdowns are happening and where they're not, right? And you guys can probably see that pretty easily. Kind of lines up with the political map, the electoral college map in the United States. The bread belt in the middle and the South are pretty much not on lockdown. Now, there are some cities in there like Houston, which, thank goodness, have been locked down. But Louisiana's getting slammed. That's why they're locked down. But it's pretty spotty as far as lockdowns in Republican strongholds. Also, President Trump keeps on getting on the news this week and saying, we need to get back to work. The people want to get back to work. I'm like, no, they don't. They want to get back to getting paid. But yeah, it's strange the tone that the president's taking, speaking for all these people saying they want to get back to work. You know, no, they don't want to get back to work for slave wages. They want to get back to work for good wages. And, sometimes you know, when there's the difference between just going home and living with your parents or like not even scraping by in the big city, some people might be taking this opportunity to just reassess their whole life and go, why was I working that hard to not even get ahead? Because this huge pandemic just happened and I didn't even have a savings account because I never could afford to have one. I couldn't even afford to lose money in this stock market because I couldn't afford to take advantage of the 401k my job offered, shit like that. So Terrence hitting a nipple in the comments is saying that he doesn't really get my prediction of 2 million deaths in the US. So mine's based on some pretty simple numbers, right? I'm not going as in depth in this conversation as far as predicting how many people will die as Thunderfoot does. But say if the rest of the country went the way of California and their prediction that half the people were going to get it by the end of the year, right? Spread that over the rest of the country and then look at the death rates in other countries. Now, right now, today, Italy is at a death rate of 10.4%. Spain is at a death rate of 7%, and the US is at a death rate of just 1.4%, right? And I don't know if that is affected by the rates of testing per se, if it's different between the countries, or Is it just that in the initial wave of testing and infected, that you see a lower death rate and it climbs each day? Because Italy's death rate was not always 10%. It grew up to that day after day. And now it's at like 10.4. That's the worst death percentage per infected person of the entire world is Italy right now. And today the U.S. overtook China's infected numbers that they're willing to say to the world. So U.S. gets the golden number of infected now. That's awesome, right? Go USA. But it could be that the USA's testing is actually better than the other countries, which you don't hear it that way as far as the media spin and the reporting and all that. But it could be that the other countries are only testing people who have severe symptoms, you know, because their death rates are astronomical, 10.4%. Now, the World Health Organization, they estimated a 3.5% death rate, and they've been adjusting that to like 3.4, 3.2. You know, right now I think it sits at 3.4, but I went with 3.5 when I made my prediction. And I put us somewhere between 1 and 2 million dead, just with like simple math that I did. Thunderfoot went way more in depth with his numbers and showing the difference between the different uh, the different lockdowns and procedures and social distancing that different countries take. And he predicted that because we were going to be very lax in our social distancing and our measures to combat the virus, that up to 11 million people could die. Right? If you watch his video, the worst case scenario for him was like 11 million. For me, I see the range as between 1 and 2 million by the end of the year, and then I don't know the rest of the course because factors will pop up. So, in looking at this map of the lockdowns and where they are, and how mostly the Republican stronghold states are the ones that do not have statewide lockdowns, even though they can see the rest of the states locking down. It's like they're thinking that the Democratic states are running around like the sky is falling, you know, and this will blow over, and our state will be in a better economic place if we don't shut down like those stupid Democrats who are committing suicide economically, right? And yeah, no, they're just making more of their own state die, basically. So yeah, they don't see this as a real threat. It's like they're seeing the numbers and it's just not getting through to their heads that yeah, your state is next. Okay, so Jen M in the chat says they're protected by Jeebus, unlike those heathen Democrats. I even saw a report that just this past Sunday, a church was open with 1,000 people in the congregation. And I really, I'm an atheist, right? And I don't hate religion that much that I would want to see those 1,000 people get infected. That is some bullshit, That pastor isn't leading his flock well. Um, but he's like a tiny microcosm of the larger thought process of God will save us. This is, sent from the devil to purge the world and all we have to do is stay home and pray and try to carry on like business as normal, go to work, be a good worker, and God will save us. He will deliver us, you know. And maybe they also realize that if the economy tanks, that it's going to look bad up for their president, and people will vote against him. And they care so much about the president being reelected so that a Democrat can't get in office that they're willing to sacrifice their own and mostly their elderly, you know. Aries says, I use spiritual discernment to see the virus with my naked eyes. God has given me superpowers. That's not as bad as one televangelist on TV so far saying, "Put your hands on the screen, and I will cure you of the coronavirus." You know, I'm like, oh my god, Holy Ghost shield activate. Exactly. You know, Jen says, no, you have to call on all of them like Sailor Moon, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Oh my goodness. Um, so on TikTok, as I was flipping through this morning, I see lots of great jokes about uh, the coronavirus every day. But you also see some people who are of a different persuasion. They're trying to push their political views onto TikTok, right? Whoops. Kind of push the camera there. So I saw a TikTok where a guy was saying if abortion clinics have to stay closed for the next 2 weeks, then the coronavirus will save as many lives as it takes. Now, I don't know where the guy got his numbers, right? I don't know how many abortions happen in 2 weeks, and I don't know how many people are going to die in the next 2 weeks exactly. But I'm thinking he's got his numbers a little off. He's overestimating the number of people that get abortions every day. And it was interesting to me that he was making that political statement, and he just uploaded that video today. I'm like, already, you know, the coronavirus is killing so many people per day that I don't know. I think it might be outpacing abortions. I don't have the numbers, but if it isn't today, just give it a few days because we're headed the way of Italy, right? And I've got 100 different ways of painting this picture for people to try to make sure that they know how serious this is. And what I don't have is the skills to help people through the grief of all the people that are going to die, some of which they're going to be very close to. Otto wants to know if I've ever eaten Alex Jones magical protein pancakes. No, and I don't want to know what the magical ingredient is. That's oof, no. That's kind of like how Kane Cordova makes his special gree balls, and I didn't know what gree balls were until I saw his video, and then I had to go look up what gree balls are. But he says that he made them with a little something special, And I was like, oh no, that's no, no, no. And then he said it was dirt from a special place. So, at least I know it's just dirt. So I did add one special bit of decoration to my YouTube room. You can see that Mr. Poopy Face there now has some toilet paper. That's what I added to my room for the special pandemic. It'll be there for the rest of the downfall of humanity. Oh, Nick says the magical protein is the ground up bone of communists. Okay, well, the communists to the north, uh, the Canadians, their uh, bailout of the people is about $2,000 per month for the next 4 months. Today, we had the Senate pass something where our businesses are going to get this huge bailout, and the people might get up to $1,200 one time. Just saying, you know, all those people who said that they wanted to move to Canada, they might be kicking their ass for not jumping on the bandwagon while it was still hot, you know. Terrence Hypno Nipple says Italy has more old people and they greet each other with intimate contact. Okay. So, how do you explain that New York is slammed right now with the coronavirus when the greeting of New York is, hey, fuck you? Huh? Not even a laugh? Okay. I don't have a laugh track to my fucking YouTube channel. Sorry. Nick says, I have to wonder if the people already on SSI or disability will get that $1,000. Well, you will if you filed your taxes. People who are on unemployment also they are going to get a bonus to their unemployment check, and so they also put something in where gig economy workers are able to claim make an unemployment claim right now, which is kind of strange. They're contract workers, but they're also out of work during this time. So as long as you filed your taxes, you're going to get the check, and then next year they'll probably adjust as they have to. If there is a next year, if there is a country in the years to follow, if you disrupt all the sporting events, then the Roman Colosseum of America starts to look like it was all just the curtain of Oz in the first place. So we need to get some sports in this motherfucker. You know. Anyways, so Nick wants to know why more Republicans are at risk. He wants me to explain it 20 minutes in when I explained it in the first 5 minutes. But here you go, Nick. Uh, that is the map of where the lockdowns are. Right? Right there. This was updated like 3 hours ago. And all the pretty much Democratic states that went Democrat in the last electoral college, they're the ones that are shut down. They're also the ones with the biggest urban areas. So there's that. But basically, the idea that we're all going to be okay by Easter, And the lockdowns themselves going right up until Easter Sunday in a lot of states, right? That's telling, you know, like Easter cannot be interrupted. We all got to go to church and cram into church on Easter. And I tell you what, the states that do that, they're just going to reignite the fire of their coronavirus outbreaks. So, while there's fighting in the chat, I will. Oh, Jen M says, "Bring back the Lions." I was actually talking to someone from Spain today, and I said maybe they should release the bulls that run, uh, and just like don't do a run, just like leave the bulls out in the streets, and then just tell people stay in or you're gonna get gored. You know. Anyways, I did just Google the response of the tribes that are also located within the states that haven't done complete lockdowns. And the Navajo Nation, while they've gotten a few cases of this, they have locked themselves down pretty well. And so have the Sioux. And I also learned that the Sioux earlier last year, they banned their governor in South Dakota from coming onto their reservation, like an official ban, stay out of our reservation. I thought that was pretty funny. You know, must be hard to govern in South Dakota. Kip says more chocolate Easter eggs for me. Okay. Well, I'm on day 2 of take this shit seriously and keep myself on at least on our own property, if not inside the house. But I did do a few things outside, took the trash out. You know, I moved some stuff around in the yard so that it'd be easier on us come springtime. But yeah, I think I'm going to take this shit real seriously. Nick says Nebraska has no lockdowns yet. You know, a few scattered cases. I'll tell you what. Uh, this virus spreads in a way that you got to take the number of cases that have been confirmed and then give it a multiplier. Whatever number you want to pull out of your ass, is up to you. But Thunderfoot in his video, I think he was using 4. You know, for my own safety, I've been using the number 10. So for every one reported case, I've been assuming that there's 10 out there, and that's why the risk to reward ratio is now beyond the point of me wanting to leave the house. I just ordered a box of my favorite pens, and because I still got to work from home, and I still use pen and paper while I am doing my telehealth groups, and I ran out of my special pen. In fact, right before lockdown, I think someone stole some pens out of my bag because they're nice and runny. You know, it's the Staples OptiFlow. If anybody wants to know, I don't have a Amazon affiliate link in my description. Sorry, but if you're looking for a good pen at a good price, the Staples OptiFlow pen is less than $1 each, and it does the job really well. And when you're about to run out of ink, you can see it It's really good at like letting you know how much ink is still in it because you can see the ink chamber. Hello, Michelle. Um, if you want, you can try to wrangle some of the people in my chat, but yeah, it looks like they're having fun. Nick says he likes Pilot G2s. Now, I have become sort of a pen connoisseur in that I have to do a lot of paperwork, and I want my pens to just slide on the paper and dump as much ink as they can for as little as I want to press down. The problem with that is if you ever run across carbon copies, right? So the Staples Optiflow pen is not good if you are using forms that have carbon copies, because if you press down, you're going to tear through the paper, right? So if you're one of those people who has to use carbon copy forms, go ahead and go with Nick's Pilot G2. Those work pretty well as far as a versatile option. Akira Kazuya says, "What's with the clickbait title? Can I get a TLDW?" Okay, you're another latecomer. I just explained that in the beginning of the video. Then I explained it at the 20-minute mark. We're now at the 26-minute mark. Here is a map of where all the lockdowns are. Akira, there you go. What's that look like, Akira? It also looks like the U.S. Electoral College map. That's why I'm saying more Republicans are going to die. Plus, they're jumping on the whole defend the president for saying Americans need to get back to work. We need to get back to work. That's our main priority is get back to work, you know. Nick says Iowa has a shitload of cases and no lockdowns. And that's sad, you know. Um, what can you do? Alan says that expensive pens are just uncomfortable and they throw smudges everywhere. Uh, the Staples Optiflow pen, if you wanted to smudge, you have to do it in the first like 5 seconds after writing something. After that, the ink is just as fast drying as that of a copier. I don't know what they do to their ink, but it's really fast drying, so you can't smudge it that easily. CRB Vegas says strikes me as you having a morbid fantasy against Republicans. At this point, I'm telling you, like I just said earlier in the video, that I don't hate Christians so much that I would want to see that church with 1,000 members all get sick and die just because they met, just because one pastor's stupid. Okay, I'm more of the mindset that we all come to the table, we all argue, and even if we both go our separate ways and we believe totally different things, at least we're still alive. Okay. Rule number one, everybody lives if we can do that. Okay. I don't want to see Republicans die. I want to see their mindset of we need to get back to work. We need to save our economy first. I don't want to see that uh, spread and get them killed. Now, I also understand that we do still need to have an economy, which is why I've worked my ass off to make things work for the agency that I work for in order to keep them working through this pandemic. So I went to telehealth. I taught people how to run things so that we could do telehealth. I stayed on top of the regulations and was feeding information to the right people, like, hey, we can do this, we can do this. I stayed and helped train other counselors that weren't as tech savvy in how to do what we do through a machine. You know, the economy is important to me, just not as important as saving people's lives as like the number one priority. And then we'll recover our economy. Um, let's see. Ari says we need a stay-at-home economy. Um, okay. I think what we're all learning right now is how many of those fucking meetings could have been emails. But I swear to God, I need a laugh track sometimes on this thing. Some nights I feel like I'm on a roll. Um, Now the fight seems to have turned to uh, fighting about what pen to use. Um, Alan says for signatures and paperwork, expensive pens are great. Yeah, the kind of paperwork that doesn't take carbon copies. For carbon copies, I find that the cheap pens, the ones that I call client pens, right? There's my pens, and then there's client pens. And there's one company in particular that I've seen that gives away a whole bunch of pens to addiction counseling locales, and that is the Insurance Stop. And they're an insurance company that specializes in SR22 insurance for drunk drivers, for people who have too many accidents and they're forced to get SR22 insurance. So they advertise in all the different places that a person would show up if they had a DUI by giving those companies a whole bunch of free pens that are basically Bic pens that they're the most dime a dozen pens with the insurance stuff printed on the back or on the side. So my ass is dragging. Oh, that was comedy. Now I get it. Well, I guess it's not comedy if you have to tell people it's comedy, right? Or at least it's not comedy done well. Um, Let me check to see if the numbers have changed at all on the Johns Hopkins site. I don't know when the Johns Hopkins site gets updated like daily. Like I go to sleep, I wake up, and the numbers are all different. But it seems like they're only doing it once per day. So let me do that other site that was created by uh, the teenager, the ncov 19.live. Oh, it's redirecting now to COVID-19 stats.live. Okay. Maybe he sold out. Oh, wait, it says buy me a coffee, so it could still be him. Um, his numbers don't look any more updated than Johns Hopkins. So, Anyways, back to my chat. Dinah Cat Loves Me says, speaking of not comedy, I watched the movie Misery tonight and I laughed more than I do most intentional comedies. I actually was watching uh, Kane Cordova's last video, and like he's a friend that I've met in person a couple times, right? He's a fellow YouTuber, and I was watching his video about the coronavirus. I think it was yesterday, and we were watching it, and Misty and I had to laugh at a few parts because he was like, "You don't want to kill people, you know, because then after the pandemic is over, then you're not going to be able to rejoin join society." I'm like, whoever has to think that through like that. Um, Otto wants to know: do you think it's possible that Nick has microcephaly? His head is the size of a grapefruit. No, I've seen him in person. There's a video of me and him right next to each other in a car on my channel, and his head is not tiny. Let's see. Hi, Firewall. How you doing? Thanks for joining us. Jamie is still trying to get me to say positive things about religions that I don't talk about enough, in his opinion, because I talk about the things that are in my backyard, not the things that are going on in his backyard, I guess, because he's got a little shrine to Allah. Michelle says she's got to get breakfast and dress ahead. Catch you later. Thank you, Michelle, for keeping up the UK economy. You know, IT workers are essential personnel. So I'm gonna tell you guys something. Michelle says I'm not biting. Uh, I guess I'm not as good of a troll as I used to be, huh? Um, Otto says AOG. Can we now talk about the importance of retail workers and expect them to be treated better and paid more than minimum wage? Um, yeah, I think we can. And I think a lot of retail workers are going to find that there are jobs that pay more money, and then they won't be as upset with the amount of actual physical labor they're doing, and they might just decide, you know what, I'd rather stay in this industry and get paid more money than you know look pretty and try to sell people a suit. This whole warehouse logistics thing and driving a forklift, this shit is awesome. You know, Ivan wants to shout out to Basquiat. Um, okay, I will paint again one day for you guys. It's coming soon because I'm still working on my art desk over there. Uh, Welcome, Phantom Lion. Welcome, Alan. Um, damn, I've got like 16 people in here. Where are you all coming from? Is it that I'm making predictions that more Republicans are going to die of the Wuhan cough? And I've got evidence to back it up that they're not taking shit seriously and they're waiting till after all of the Democratic places have instituted lockdowns and they're like laughing and thinking that they're going to have their economy flourish while the Democrats are all locked down. You know, Jen says it's okay. We'll pray for them. Um, Firewall says I come from Insomniaville. Well, I used to be there, and I feel for you there. Uh, Working night shifts and then people expecting me to switch over to day shifts very easily on the weekends just kind of fucked my sleep schedule. And now that I sleep after I get off this live stream every night, uh, and I sleep normal night hours and wake up in the morning when the sun is up and I'm getting vitamin D, I got to tell you, my sleep is so much better. You know, Alan says he'll predict the president will die of stupidity. Maybe. I got to tell you that all of the political candidates that will be a possibility of making it to the presidential ballot in the end, they will pretty much be in that age demographic where, you know, if they get it, they got like a 15% chance of dying. So, like, take all of the people that were in the Democratic field that were running for the nomination when all this shit started out. It was like, 20 odd people. Okay. So then, if 50% of them get the coronavirus, that means, statistically speaking, at least one or two of them don't die before the election. You know, easy prediction. Now, Trump, he was holding a lot of rallies, he was kissing a lot of babies. We hear that he doesn't have the coronavirus because he was tested. But then we're having to trust the media as it comes from his media office. But with the way that he is treating things as if this is something that we can just get over, and it's not even as bad as the flu, and just now he seems like in the past week he seems to have realized that this is a little bit worse than the flu, and he still seems to have this priority of economy over uh, people's lives. I gotta say, he's probably going to make some decisions to see a few too many people might catch it, and he might actually die in office. Whether or not he gets reelected, because this virus ain't going away like just because the election happens, or in a couple of months uh, it goes to just a few cases. In a couple of months, if it goes to just a few cases here and there, and we lift the quarantines, we're going to get a big rash of cases again. Brian says, here's an observation. The current epicenters of the outbreak seem to be in blue states, not red ones. Make of that what you will. Okay. Okay. That's true because it's in the population centers, right? But all 50 states right now have confirmed cases. So it's got a pretty good spread. Now the states that have lockdowns are going to be able to contain more of the cases that they do have. And the ones that don't have lockdowns and don't treat this seriously, Jen says, population density. How does it work? Uh, it reminds me so much of when I met Desert File. That was a good moment. Star Cloud says, so who do we want for vice president is the question. Yeah, yeah. And it could be very well that whoever gets picked for vice president is actually who we're going to get for president. My Ass's Dragon says, all 50 states in only 3 months. Actually, it might have been shorter than that. It's just our reaction time to testing and actually even showing symptoms, you know, might have been very lacking. You know, um, in my own experience, I heard about a couple of people who died of strange circumstances before all of this was a thing here in the past month. And I'm talking about around the January area, and can't say much about them because of confidentiality. But I've been wondering about a lot of strange deaths that I heard about. So it could be that we just weren't looking. I mean, in King County in Washington, when that whole old folks home was pretty much all infected, and they all started dying. I think that was a pretty uh, big sign that holy shit, this has already been in the U.S. incubating in people for weeks, and just now we've got some people dying of it. But if you go back 2 weeks from when we heard about those deaths, nobody was taking this shit seriously. Just like the Republican states that aren't locked down are not taking this shit seriously. And unfortunately, just like a bunch of the people in my own state, even though it's majority Democratic, who are still doing things that are obviously not social distancing. And here's one of the worst things. Like, I showed Misty a video of this, and she face palmed and cried on the couch. No joke. Face palmed and cried when I showed her video of this. In Alexandria, Egypt, people were marching in the streets in protest of the coronavirus. Not shitting you. Which, it shows how people don't know how to respond to this thing. But also, it makes it very obvious to me that, like, those of us who do understand how this thing works must realize that the ability to protest in numbers and have like protest marches, protest rallies, stuff like that, is gone from the people in politics who used those types of protests the most in order to bring about awareness to people. So now we're all keyboard commandos if we're going to be trying to win hearts and minds, because we've got to do it from home for the next year. Yes, Brian, face balm and cry on couch. It's exactly what she did. I had to go over there, give her a hug, give her a kiss, because I didn't realize that by showing her that video, it was going to be that bad. But we've been seeing a whole bunch of stupid things. People making videos, licking all the ice cream and putting it back in the refrigerators at supermarkets. Um, you know, People just trying to make a scene and going into stores and coughing on people. Terrence says the first Colorado death, they were looking for people. She was around in early February when it wasn't supposedly here yet. Yeah. Terrence says that's part of why I think the cold I had in late January might have been COVID. I also have had some worries myself that I might have already had it. And I'm not getting tested because I just had a call from my primary care provider. I feel fine right now, but 2 weeks ago, I was so full of anxiety because of all the stories from my clients about losing their jobs and stuff that I came home, and Misty at the same time, Misty was also getting all of this, dumped on her from her clients. We get home and we were just way too tired to do anything, like even make dinner for ourselves. And so, yeah, I think there was no way for me to actually tell if something else was making me feel lethargic during that time. But that to me puts me at a disadvantage as far as knowing if I'm feeling sick. Now I'm also type O blood, so apparently it's the type A blood people that are getting this real bad. Oh, Rob says, "Is Misty your cat?" No, no. I know that some people name their pets Misty, but no, Misty is my girlfriend. Seeking Shadows. She's got an Instagram. People love her Instagram once they find it. On average, they spend more than 3 minutes looking at her photos on her Instagram at Seek in Shadows. Uh, Star Cloud says, "Are you a vet?" Um, yes, I am an Army veteran. Brian says, "Does the RH negative positive make any difference?" I don't know. What I do know is that the study that said uh, the relationship between the ABO blood group and the COVID-19 susceptibility, uh, with a whole bunch of Chinese names from doctors, is posted on MedRx4. Uh, and I will put the link in the chat because I'm hosting this chat. We'll copy that and paste. Anyway, it says that blood type O is less susceptible to this virus, and also blood type A is more receptive to this virus than the average. So, more susceptible to it. So, after that, I went down this rabbit hole of what kind of diseases are blood type specific, and I found that norovirus actually hits people with type B blood like way harder than it hits anybody else. And so I was like, wow. So if I have type O blood and it was, naturally resistant to this virus, and maybe I had a whole bunch of things go my way, like I'm in the right age group to fight it off very easily, maybe I've already had it and didn't know. There were a couple of clients that came into my group therapy that I was wondering if they had a cold or the flu. You know, I've had a couple of clients get up and have, coughing or sneezing fits in the bathroom and then come back to the room because, they just want to check a box of, not missing the week for therapy because their PO would get pissed off at them. So, yeah, no privacy says he too suspects that he had it before they're already confirmed in his state. 3 days in bed, 3 weeks unproductive cough. Now, the unproductive cough thing, I had another thing that it was right after those 2 or 3 days that both Misty and I were feeling very drained, you know, and I was like, is this uh, me talking myself into thinking that I have this, or do I actually have it? You know, was I being made sick by my own uh, worrying about being sick? Is this a psychosomatic illness or a real one? I was like second guessing it myself. And so because it never got worse for me and it just went away, I was like, well, you know, maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just talked myself into feeling sick because, you know, especially when reading the DSM, I've thought that I've had just about every mental illness, you know. Rob says China closed its borders now and said, fuck you to the world. We dealt with it. Actually, I saw some news reports from Australia where Chinese companies in December and January were buying up all of the medical supplies, putting them in shipping containers, and sending them back to China. They were buying up all the gloves and all the N95 masks off the shelves, and they made videos of themselves doing this in warehouses, that they were sending all of these supplies back to China to help China deal with their problem. And so now the outbreak has reached Australia and they're fucked because the Chinese went to their store shelves and bought up all the supplies and then sent them on a boat back to China. True story. Brian's saying that he's wondering if the bronchial pneumonia he had over Christmas was COVID because that really sucked, and the paranoia is real, and he's still coughing from it. Damn it, Brian! I wanted, when all of this shit was over, to get a passport and go to the UK and maybe visit you. But if you're coughing like that, I don't know. You got cooties. Aries is saying that the thing that hit last month would have seen a lot more deaths from respiratory distress than we saw. Now, here's the thing: there is this effect that this COVID-19 disease has had on a few people, where people have dropped dead. Okay, the latest story that I've heard of this was actually in Georgia. It was a mammogram technician who she went home from the hospital, looked fine at the hospital, and then after her kid was with her dead body for like almost a whole day, they finally found her dead at home. She just fell over dead, and her kid was with her, her like infant child. And so people saw her asymptomatic. She fell over dead, right? Um, just here in Colorado, there was another case of someone on the street fell over and hit their head, and there was a lot of blood, right? And so they called it in, and the people who showed up to deal with it showed up in hazmat suits because they are treating everyone as if it comes down to the coronavirus. But why did the person fall over? We don't know, right? And those stories that I cannot say, that I can't talk about because of confidentiality, a lot of them involve mysterious, out of the blue, perfectly healthy people keeling over and dying. And unfortunately, I can't source some of the videos and photos that I've seen that came out of China, in December and January. But one in particular was of a man who was waiting in line at a hospital and just fell over backwards dead, walking around, and then 1 minute dead. And so, what would someone ascribe the cause of death for those things to? You know, if it was coronavirus back in December and January, we just didn't see it. We just didn't see it for what it was. Are some people, for some reason, particularly susceptible? So it creates this weird effect where they're asymptomatic and then really, really quickly go downhill. Don't know. AN says China has been buying our baby milk slash formula. Hoarders go into stores and sell it at inflated prices to people in China. This leaves Aussies struggling to get it for themselves. Also, uh, you might not know this, but baby formula makes a very good substrate for research if you're trying to grow a bacteria or a certain type of thing in order to grow, let's say, penicillin, right? You need bacteria to make the penicillin. You need something to grow them in. Uh, Baby formula. Same thing with anthrax. So that white powder that was mailed to people, the white powder is not the anthrax itself. It's the substrate that they were grown on, which was baby formula. Um, Nick says he's seen a few vids that show several bodies on the streets in China. Um, and Rob Jones says, I've heard COVID-19 is linked to spontaneous combustion. You know, for the foreseeable future, I know that with my math and say Thunderfoot with his math, we're going to look like conspiracy theorists who are just running around with our heads cut off saying, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. I know. I know. I can tell you the few times that I have been right about things, I've been really, really right regarding this pandemic. The first one was I went and bought some toilet paper, bought two big packages of it, put it in the closet, and didn't exactly need that much toilet paper. We usually buy one of those big packages per month, right? So I bought two giant packages of toilet paper because I knew there would be a run on toilet paper because it's something that people can control. You know, they can go think that they're doing something. So, Misty bought a whole bunch of food, and I didn't have to stockpile much on food. But I made an awesome chili, by the way, guys. I used a couple cans of Hoppin' John that was pre-mixed, and then made some really good pork base to it, and it was just. I still have some. And I think tomorrow I'm going to make some rice and put the chili over rice. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, when I've been right about a couple of these things, I've been really, really right. Okay. So my prediction, based on just simple math, millions are going to die somewhere between 1 and 2 million, leaning more towards 2 million. That's my prediction. Simple math. And that's like in the coming months, you know. Uh, I think Thunderfoot's predictions are more like out like 18 months. Mine are more like, in the next few months, we're going to see that. Uh, after the stock market keeps being as volatile as it is, we're going to see a housing market crash, right? Um, Part of that is just going to be because of all of the uh, lockdowns with people not being able to go see houses and virtual uh, tours not really cutting it. So you're going to see a housing market crash, and I've been looking forward to that for a long time. Right after the housing market crashes, both from lockdowns and from people dying, and to put it nicely, putting their homes back on the market for everybody else to enjoy. You're going to see a couple of building materials tank out in the market as far as we'll say all the building materials that are involved with building a house. Those kind of commodities you would want to run on in the stock market, buy them up at their very lowest, and then say in 4 years you're going to see 10 to 20%. Sorry, 10 to 20 times what you put in. So let's say steel, NYSE X or NYSE NUE. When both of those get under, say, $2 per share, buy up as much as you can, and then within 5 years, they will be worth 10 to 20 times as much. And this is really morbid for me to say all this. Like I'm looking at this many million people are going to die, it's going to cause these problems. And then, predictably, if you play your cards right, you can come out ahead if you do this. Um, right now, if you had the money, this is really morbid, right? If you were going to make a quick buck off of this, if if you looked at a skating rink, an ice skating rink that was not being used, and the owner was about to go under because he's not getting any revenue in, and you could make a quick deal to buy that ice skating rink, I would buy that ice skating rink. Let me tell you why. Coroners are going to need a place to put all the bodies, and they're going to want to rent your ice skating rink. It's going to happen. You're going to see makeshift morgues in ice skating rinks. And I know people are joking in my chat right now, saying that I'm a conspiracy theorist, and that I'm just, way out there. But something has been spot on with a bunch of my predictions, just because I've been following human nature for a while. I like to people watch. Nick says, "Have you read The Stand?" I've actually had the most important parts of The Stand quoted to me in my chat, Nick. Um, Aries said that we should put all the dead in New York City inside Trump Towers. Aries, just doing quick math in my head, Aries. How much square footage do you give per body? Because I think you might have overestimated the capacity of Trump Towers. I don't think that you could use all the properties with Trump's name on them in order to put all the bodies from the entire world in all of the respective countries where Trump has a property with his name. I don't think you could fit all of the dead bodies into those properties that are just leasing his name, like slapped on the side of the building. It's going to take a lot of capacity to hold all these bodies. Rob Jones says he saw on Thunderfoot's community page that DPR Jones died in January. I remember that guy being involved in the VFX controversies. Do you? Yes. Yes, I do remember that. I know that the legalese that was drafted, that was read aloud by Venom Fang X in that famous video where he did his apology, was gone over by DPR Jones. So, yes, I have a lot of memories about with DPR Jones. He and Shara used to hang out a lot on online forums. Jamie says any minute Randall Flag is going to show up. Did you misspell flag there, though? Doesn't it get two G's? Nick says they'll have to start cremating. Yeah. Uh, Italy ran out of places to hide the bodies and store them while they were waiting to cremate them. And the crematoriums are all booked, the ones that are privately owned. And the Germans, in the meantime, are like, don't even want to broach the topic. But word is that they have a solution for that. Um, let's see. Poseidon says my title is totally wrong. 56% of all the cases are located in New York City, which is overwhelmingly Democrat. Schumer and company are doomed. Okay. Okay. This is a situation where I think that the Democrat cities are going to learn very quickly, and those states that are not having lockdowns, you know what's happening to them right now? People who are very likely infected are swarming to those states because there's like, man, I can't stand around this New York City. You know, we're all going to get sick and die, not realizing that they're already sick. So people are fleeing back to their home states as we speak. Actually, a lot of people descended upon Miami Beach, which is, you know, in a Republican state, and yeah, Miami, if they didn't have a lot of cases before, just give them like 2 weeks and they'll be just like New York. Bugsy says people are jamming the hiking trails here. Um, Somebody told me that in their city, people are sharing dogs because you either need walking papers to get around, because if the police stop you, if you don't have a paper saying that you're on your way to work and that you're an essential employee, that you have to be doing an essential function, and it's hard to prove that you're going for groceries. So people are just taking their dogs because that's one of the things that is on the list of essential excuses that you can use to be out is walking a dog. So, uh, Poseidon saying Miami and Dade County is 90% Democrats. Okay. Um, Miami's not the only beach that people went to for spring break, though. Let's see. Jamie says, you may have lost the battles, but you won the war. I don't know if he's talking about Nick Bravo in the chat or if he's talking about how by attrition, um, the Democrats will be able to take the biggest losses right away, and then by their response, be able to keep the most people alive that are supporters of them in those urban areas, and then in the other states that don't have lockdowns, this is just going to spread like wildfire, especially in churches. Uh, Aries is quoting that teenager. If I get corona, I get corona. I'm not going to let it stop me from having my spring break and partying. Yeah. Oh God, that guy was so ridiculous. Let's see. Jamie says, just like me, high death rates are coming to states not on lockdown. Nick Bravo says some animal shelters are running out of dogs. So, guys, I've been on for an hour and 20 minutes. We've had a good talk. Um, I'll be back tomorrow night and probably be ready to talk about some more coronavirus stuff. And, by tomorrow, some more people who are angry about my prediction that Republicans will suffer for the uh, the predilections of the big orange baddie. So they'll leave some comments, and I'll be able to respond to them tomorrow. So good night. Get a good night's sleep. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Um, don't get in a line waiting to get into the grocery store where people are not being 6 foot away from each other. That shit is retarded. I want us all to be alive at the end of this so that we can decide whether or not me calling that retarded was anti SJW of me. Okay? I want us to be alive to have those kind of talks. May all of you find your own roll of toilet paper.